Okay, welcome to another Florida End-of-Life Doula Alliance monthly Zoom meeting. Today's topic is about building your doula community. So we're going to learn today about establishing a doula collective in your area, creating more community with Sally Gabriel, who is one of the founders of the Sarasota Area End-of-Life Collective.
Yeah, hi. I'm in Sarasota. I've been here for approximately 26 years. I left for a couple of years and moved to Minneapolis during COVID. And I got into this work because I had bad experiences with both my parents dying. And also I took care of a friend a couple of years later in Florida and saw what it could be like if things were better. So I've always been interested in the field of gerontology. I trained as a gerontologist. I've been a social worker. I've worked in banking. I'm a health and life coach. I have a lot of different fields that I've been involved in. And I have training from EOLDA and doula givers. I'm actually going to do the University of Vermont training in the summer. I like to see all the different trainings, what they're like. And I'm doing a grief program at Grief Education with David Kessler right now. I've got 2 more weeks to go. So I'll be a grief educator. And so one of the things that we did in our area when I first got here is I realized as I started my own business that we really needed support. And I was volunteering at hospice, and it's a lonely business without support. And I know the birth doulas figured that out a long time ago because they started collectives. So what I wanted to share, and again, I have a presentation just because it's easier and it'll be easier to go through with you and it'll be more organized. I'm an organized person. So I'm going to pull it up on the screen. Weird lighting. So this is our logo. We are the Sarasota Area End-of-Life Doula Collective, and our tagline is educate, advocate, serve. And then this is a picture of our doulas. I was hoping some would be here today, but we have some issues with time, and I'll tell you more about that. Obviously, that's me. But we have Melanie. Many of you may know Melanie Ellerkamp. She does pet doula. Lauren Hearn, she and I are the co-founders, and she's about to have a baby in a couple of weeks, so she's going to be out for a little bit. Wendy Rose and Tony Bolin. We have another person who will be joining soon. We'll have 6. So that is all pretty positive. I'm going to I'm just going to kind of give you general information about end-of-life doula collectives, and then tell you a little bit more about the history of our collective and where we are today, kind of weave that in together. I was going to say to hold questions, but because we're such a small group, obviously, if you have something you want to ask or say, please just go ahead and stop me. So first of all, just kind of a definition, so everybody's on the same page. What is a collective in general? And we are actually, it's defined as a group of independent death doulas, and we form one business together. And I stress the word independent because we each have our own business as well. And that's important. And we come together as a group, but we still have our own business. Not all groups work like that. And there are fees to join, usually annual, quarterly, or monthly. Ours are annual. And there is a pooling of resources. So we pool our marketing resources, we pool information, and there is going to be mutual benefit for all of us in setting up a collective. So what are the advantages? And again, some of this material comes from, there's a wonderful book that many of you may know about called The Doula Business Guide. And it's about, who mentioned there? I think it was Shelley. It's also for birth, postpartum, and end-of-life doulas. And it's by Patty Brennan, who is with NIDA. And I think she just did a workshop on businesses with NIDA. So I got a lot of information from her. And what the advantages are, of course, that you have a network of people and there's mutual support. You also have backup. And that's really important. In the kind of work we do, we definitely need backup. I just had a vigil that I completed. It was 8 days. And I was exhausted because I had no backup. And this was through Tidewell. So that's our hospice. We definitely have to back each other up when it comes to vigils and other things as well. You can establish group goals and values so that you all hold the same values. You're going to come up with mission and vision. And what happens in a collective is you can specialize. If we're working independently, I think there's a lot of pressure on us to know everything. We can't. So if we have doulas, a group of doulas, somebody specializes in grief, like you said, Shanti, you specialize in grief, somebody else specializes in vigils, and so it's going to allow for that. We also maintain our independence, very important. A lot of us are used to having our own business. I know I am. I've had two businesses for a while, but we also can work as a team. So we've got the best of both worlds. Each member has equal status, and there is minimal business regulation. Again, depending where we live, of course, we're in Florida, it's minimal. Disadvantages, and there are some. One is the loose business structure. So what that does mean often is that let's say you have 5 people in the group, there's going to be 1 or 2 who are going to take on most of the responsibility, either because they have more time or they just are more motivated. And because people have to keep it moving. Otherwise it falls apart. And it's not going to be equal. And sometimes we have issues, and not so much but people have issues with members not contributing equally. So those are things that need to be looked at and talked about. Again, all of these disadvantages just need to be acknowledged. There are scheduling challenges, and today is a good one. I was hoping to have at least 1 or 2 other doulas. Out of 5 of us, only I was the only one that could make it. Scheduling problems. Slower decision-making. If you've had your own business, you're used to making your own decisions. So when it comes time for decisions in a collective, first of all, you decide how you want to make decisions, but very often it's consensus. So that means all of you need to get in on the decision-making, and sometimes that can take time. You also can have relationship issues. Always in any group, somebody doesn't like somebody. Our collective actually started out with 7, and one of them dropped out for health reasons, and the other one dropped out for personality reasons. So that tells you all you need to know. Group reputation is on the line. Again, if somebody goes out there and does a poor job, it reflects on the whole group. So these, again, are some of the disadvantages. And then we have, so just so you know, there are, of course, I don't want to say lots, there are collectives out there today around the country. I just looked in our country. Some of them are not exactly collectives, like you see the word alliance or you see the word collaborative. And in these, the alliance is these people, the Bay Area, they're all end-of-life doulas. In the same with Philly, that's a collective of all doulas. Minnesota, they have people like I think Lissa was saying, people who are doing more than just end-of-life doulas. In our group, we're just end-of-life doulas. We're thinking in the future maybe of going nonprofit and adding in other other professions, but not yet. We're just starting out. So I just want to mention that some of these are not just end-of-life doula collectives. I contacted these first 3, and some of the others contacted others just to get information about how they're doing it, how they established it. The one that was most helpful were the people from the Bay Area, and that's Diane Button, if anybody knows Diane Button. She's written a couple books, and I spoke with her and her co-founder. One of the things they said that was so helpful, they started their collective in 2015, and it's taken them now they're almost 10 years in, it's taken them many years to really get established. Take it slow. They said, you will not get established for quite a while because people don't know what we do. And honestly, that was really good advice because some of us are like, we're in a hurry. And we have learned to take it slowly. And we're finding people don't know what we do. So Philly people, when I contacted one of the doulas there, she said, well, I can't really help you because we're feeling our way along. So that's kind of where it is. Minnesota people have been around longer and they're not a collective, so that they weren't really a good example. But I do have connections with Connecticut. I have some other connections. Some of these are very small. Connecticut's small, Midwest is small. And that's how we started, was doing research. So just some examples, how to set up a collective. Because I know some of you are interested in, and there's some great cities, in Florida where a collective would be, I think, a natural thing. Tampa, right? Miami, Orlando, some of the areas like you mentioned, Pinellas County. But first you got to start with people who are motivated. So you need at least one, or maybe luckily if you have two, that's even better. If you had a couple of people who were motivated and wanted to start the collective, because you're going to need that. You need a couple of organized people, just people that are passionate about this kind of work. And so in our example, I met Lauren Hearn. I actually met her through this group. I think Lynn connected us because we were both in Sarasota area. And we met for coffee. And Lynn and I have at least a 40-year age difference. I'm quite older. And so what was so interesting is we both have passion for this type of work. And she comes from the medical field. And I come from the banking, the business, the psychological, all of that coaching field. So we're very good. We're a good mix. And we were able to start a group. And we started a group basically just to meet of all the doulas in our area. And we did that. I went to all the directories, every directory I could find. And NELDA has a great directory. Doula Givers has a directory. Most of the programs, Vermont has a directory. You go to the end-of-life doula programs and find their directories. And eventually we'll have a directory. So I guess I have 6 or 7 directories that I will peruse. And if I see anybody in the 3 counties, Manatee, Sarasota, and Charlotte County, those are all within our purview, I will seek them out. And I'll send them an email, kind of, hello, we've got a group going and we're interested. Would you be interested in joining? We meet once a month. And so we brought in about 14 people who are practicing in those areas, and we met as a group. So you get together with prospective members and you gauge interest. And all along, Lauren and I had in our mind that we wanted to form a collective. But again, we were just trying to get people together. So we had a fairly structured agenda, and we also, because it was getting so large, we developed a steering committee. And a steering committee is just a small group, as many of you may know this, just a small group of people. In our case, it was 4 out of the 14. And we would meet on a bi-weekly basis to sort of map out where we were going and make some decisions, but bring them then into the larger group. And we decided in the steering committee that we wanted to create a collective. We also needed to develop criteria. So what are the membership criteria for coming into an end-of-life doula collective? And the steering committee came up with that. And so what we did, again, our committee was 4 people. If you have more than 4 in a steering committee, it gets very unmanageable because, it needs to be, as you need to have agreement. We established the criteria for membership, and we sent out membership applications to all 14 people. And then we accepted members. And again, the application is very simple. It was just, however you want to design it. What are your interests? Why do you want to join? I'll give you more information about that in a little while. And as it turned out, we got out of the 14 people, we ended up with 7. And 2, as I mentioned, 2 of them are not there now, and we will have 6. And to me, that's a perfect number for a startup group. Any more than that could be unmanageable. So I'm happy with the size. So let's just say you've decided to form a collective. Now what do you do? And when I was putting this together, I was thinking, God, there's so many decisions you have to make, when you form a group. As Shanti, because you guys have done the Florida End-of-Life Doula Alliance. There are just so many decisions. So I'm just going to sort of lay out the decisions, and I'll talk a little more about some of them in detail. First is you got to decide, how are you going to make decisions in the group? Is it going to be majority rules? Is it going to be 100% consensus? Is it going to be steering committee? How are you going to do it? And so we discussed that, and we decided in the collective right now, we all want to have agreement. In the larger group, we were looking for majority. But now that we have the collective, it needs to be consensus. So that could be a problem going forward, and we'll keep examining that. How often do you want to meet, and where do you want to meet? We, as a large group, we met on Zoom, and that's the most manageable because, again, our geographical area is very large. So we continue to meet on Zoom. We have had a couple of in-person meetings, but we only hold them during the summer because the traffic here is like, you don't even want to think about it. So Zoom is our major location, and we meet once a month. So you pick a time and how often. We can't always agree on the time, so we don't have this is what, the first Tuesday. We couldn't do that. So every time we meet, we pick the next meeting because everybody's got crazy schedules. You decide on a name for the collective, and then you decide on a budget. I'm gonna flush these out a little bit in a minute. Decide on a budget and then how much you're going to charge. You decide on a structure. So what kind of organization do you want? There's lots of different ways to go, as you find out. Do you want a president? Do you want to, do you want to be really formal? Do you want to be loose? Again, you got some options. You decide who takes what job. And that's very much based on the time that somebody has and then their skills. What kind of work have they been doing? If somebody's never worked with finance, you don't really necessarily want to make them the treasurer. So you try to capitalize on people's skills, at least in the beginning. You decide on group values, vision, and mission statements, and the goals. And this comes a little bit later because we had to do some team building before we got to this point. As you all know, mission and vision statements take time, a lot of time, and a lot of iterations, and we finally have them now. And we've been working at this, by the way. Lauren and I met for the first time in April of 23, and it's now June of 2024. So, it's not something that went like that. You decide on your membership criteria going forward, like how are you going to bring people in? How many do you want? Do you want to have it large? Do you want to have it small? What are your goals in terms of a number of people? And then you're going to work on policies and procedures. And that's an ongoing process. We haven't done all of that. And then you decide when you're going to launch your website. We had some interesting issues with the website because there were people in the group who wanted to launch the website immediately. And we didn't really want to, I didn't want to do that. Lauren didn't want to do that because we really heard from others who had done their collectives. Until you have your ducks in a row, do not launch your website because you could drive, you're going to drive traffic to it. But if you're not ready to handle what's coming in, you don't put your best foot forward. So bottom line is we have not launched our website yet. We're getting ready to, but we've had to do a lot of backup work before we do the website. So I just want to go to the picking a name. How do you pick a name for a collective? This is how we did it. We wanted to find something that was easy to locate online. And we had some people who wanted, Suncoast, and some very lovely, flowy, flowery names, but I don't think they would have found us. So we just did the simplest Sarasota area, because we're not just Sarasota, End-of-Life Doula Collective. That's it. It's long, but it is descriptive, and we picked that intentionally. We also chose not to call ourselves death doulas. Some of the other groups call themselves death doulas. I had the feeling in Florida that word, even though we've got so many elderly here and people who are in the death category, they don't like the word death. So we are end-of-life doulas. And you registered the name on sunbiz.com, as a business name. So the budget, the next step, or one of the steps, again, some of these are being done concurrently, is to find someone in the group with some experience doing finance work or pet budgeting, simple stuff. Somebody might have been on a board somewhere, someone might have worked in a bank. somebody has some accounting experience. You want to pick somebody with a little bit of experience. And then they create a budget. So for example, for us, we decided on how much we wanted to spend on marketing. And the first year, it's very minimal. We're doing our own brochures. We have a template for the brochure, but we're asking each of our members to buy the brochures for themselves, however many they want, because we don't have enough money in the budget yet. We wanted to keep the first year inexpensive. Of course, you got a website set up and your maintenance, and that's going to be the most expensive. For us, it's the most expensive in the first year. And then the name registration. So there are a couple of startup costs when you register your business and when you register your domain. So, again, it's not prohibitive, but there are expenses. And then if you want some consulting, and I'll tell you a little bit more about why we put that in our budget, or training fees, because as a group, we really wanted to work together and we thought we might need some help. So we have a little bit of money in there for that. And then based on your budget, you divide it up among the members, and we had 7 at the time. And our budget, I forget exactly how much it was, about 800. And we divided up among 7, but we didn't get 7. So we got 5, and we may have 1 more. So we'll have 6. And so our budget's a little bit less than we thought. And the extra comes out of the marketing. So again, the first year budget should be pretty simple. And that's how we're doing it. Next year, we'll regroup. Organizational structure. So we decided as a group, again, these decisions are made in our meetings, to keep it fairly loose. We didn't want to have a president at this point. We have a secretary. So I had been doing the minutes anyway throughout the beginning of all of this. So I had a fairly well-organized way of doing it. So I'm the secretary, and I do the agendas and keep the minutes and just try to keep things moving. We have a treasurer, and also because I have a background in banking, I took the treasury, and Melanie is my assistant. And that's another thing you want to have too. So whenever there's money in an organization, people probably know this, you need to have 2 eyes on it at all times. So nobody ever asks you questions if you have 2. Marketing coordinator, Wendy's had experience in marketing. Melanie's doing social media for us. We have a website. We have a Facebook page so far. And what else do we have? We're going to work on LinkedIn. She'll do the link. She'll do all the social media. And then websites and brochures. Lauren's working on that. There are 2 of us that are contact people. And so when the website's up, we'll be doing a lot of the initial contact. If somebody wants to do something educational, they might contact one of us. And then meeting facilitation. So we decided to rotate that because, again, we don't want one person doing just running the meetings. Every 3 months, we change the meeting rotation. And education and outreach, everybody does that. So we can, any of us can find a location to talk. Again, it's a little unstructured right now. But we'll, as time goes on, we will formalize some of these processes. One of the first things we did was we wanted to do some team building. And I think this is important when you have a group of people who are working closely together, is how to get to know each other. And how do you want to do that? We were lucky enough I was able to find someone in our group, and some of you may know her. I know, Shanti, you do. Lisa Patterson, who lives in Englewood, which is in Charlotte County. And she's not working as a doula anymore, but she has a lot of experience in the administration. She was on the board of NEDA. I think she was involved originally in this Florida group. I mean, she's done a lot of things. She's not well right now, but she was willing to help us and be our consultant for a period of maybe 6 months. And she got us going. The other alternative, if you don't have a consultant, is to use SCORE. I don't know how many people have heard of SCORE. It's actually a federal government program through the Small Business Administration for people who are in the business world, and they offer their services as mentors. So I got a SCORE mentor for my own business, and she was willing to help mentor us through me for the collective. And that's really, it's a free service available to any of us. So we had Lisa as our consultant, and we did team building. And we had two separate sessions. One was 2 hours, and then the second was 3 hours. And these were the questions. I wrote some questions down here that she asked us to think about, and then we discussed them in our groups. So the first was, what are your three most important values? Because again, we wanted to find what are the values for the collective. We want to have a set of values, because the values are going to drive the mission, vision, and everything that we do as a group. What do you want to contribute? We wanted to know from each of us, what do you think you want to contribute to the collective? And so then, each person, when we went around the table, when we were on Zoom, the first meeting, when we went around the Zoom screen, people shared what they felt they wanted to contribute. And then, I kept careful notes, so I've got all that documented. What are 3 to 5 of your personal strengths? Because we want to know what you feel strongly that you can do well. And then we also want to know what you feel you have areas where you have challenges, where you don't do things so well. So again, this is a way we get to know each other's strengths, each other's weaknesses. And people were very open and honest. And this was a great way for us to come together. And what would you like to contribute to the collective? So I already said that, didn't I? What do you want to contribute? Sorry, that's a repeat. The second team building meeting was more about the collective. How do we want to do these things as a group? And we came up with that, and I'll share that with you in a minute, to come up with our values, our mission, vision as a group. And these are all things that are important to do before you even think about doing a website, because they're going to go on your website. That's why, the first time people think, oh, I got to do a website right away. No, you really want to have all your ducks in a row, like I said. And so our top 5 values turned out to be, and again, this was, we debated about compassion versus love, and we ended up with both. So love, compassion, advocacy, because we advocate for our clients and our profession, professionalism. One of our goals, and I think many of us in this field want to see us as professionals. Unfortunately, the hospice here doesn't pay us. We are volunteers, and I've asked them 100 times that I've told them we need to get paid. You would get much better service from us if we were paid. No, we don't have the budget, but in our own hearts, we want to be seen as professionals. So that's a value for us. Service, obviously service, community service, and education, and then holistic. Those were our 5 top values. And then our vision. Let's see if I can read it. The vision statement. We seek to improve the end-of-life experience and change the conversation around death and dying by offering compassionate support and resources to all who need us in our community and beyond. So the vision statement is really your ideal. What is like the perfect, if you had the perfect world, what would you want to be doing? So this was our statement. And then we have a mission, and that's more like, what are you going to be doing? We said we're committed to providing compassionate and holistic non-medical support, promoting informed choices, enhancing the quality of care, and transforming the end-of-life experience into a reflective and meaningful journey for dying individuals and families. So that's our latest statement. Again, a lot of times these things get honed. We're not 100% there yet. And then we have some goals. So if any of us speak to the community, we tell them what our goals are, because they're kind of like, well, what does a collective do? And so our goals are to educate the community about how death doulas can enhance the end-of-life experience. And somebody else mentioned this, I think, Lissa, you said, fill in the gaps in care. There's so many gaps in care at the end of life. And we like to think that we fill in many of those gaps. We want to bring workshops and open conversations related to death and dying to the community. We want to teach people how to prepare for the final chapter. Again, we're in Florida, so we really have a lot of work to do, especially my county, Sarasota, Manatee County. We have some of the oldest people in the county here. So we really have a lot of work to do. We want to provide end-of-life doula services to as many people as we can within the community. And we want to mentor and support each other. That's a really important part of being a collective, is helping each other out. And we haven't figured out how we're doing that yet. This is all ongoing. We'll figure these things out. Membership criteria. So these are the ones we used for our collective. And, each collective will decide how to do it differently. But we wanted to make, again, because professionalism is one of our values, we want people to have gone through an end-of-life doula training program specifically and be certified. And when I say certified, it just means that they have a certification of completion. Because now I found out EOLDA has a very different type of certification that's much more extensive. So as long as somebody has finished a program and gotten a certification that they completed it, they would be eligible to join. And then have some experience working at the bedside. So we're asking people who don't have experience to work at hospice, to train at hospice as an end-of-life doula. And or at this point, I have enough experience I can mentor. And I think we have one other person who has enough experience to mentor. So we might be able to do it on our own, but we are asking people right now to go to a hospice. We want to make sure that you have an independent business and that you have liability insurance. I think all of us, I was told early on to make sure I had liability insurance for my business. Be willing to charge. Now, we had a sticking point with that because in the beginning, we had some doulas who joined our meetings in the county and they didn't want to charge any money. They were doing doula services for free. And we had some debate about that, but in the end, they decided not to join because again, those of us who are in the collective, we want to be treated as professionals and we want to be paid for our services. That's important. We will have a sliding scale and we have to work all the details out about how we'll pay. People have their own businesses and they can charge what they want, but we'll probably have a rate for the collective. So any clients who come into through the collective, we will charge the same rate. People who join need to have time availability. And this one's hard to determine, but you'll find out quickly. Some people have no time and can't do the work. And others have a lot of time. So we want to make sure people have time. We want them to attend 8 out of 12 meetings a year. Some groups have have fewer requirement. We really feel like people need to be at the meetings. We want to make sure they attend the team building workshops. If they come late, if they come into the group later, all of them are recorded. So we're going to ask them to view them on Zoom and or work with one of the members to come up to speed. And then the collective dues right now for the year are $120. We also want people, I mentioned this, they're going to need to pick up and also distribute our collective brochures on their own financially. They're not expensive, but because we can't afford that yet. And the last one, this was added by one of my clients, my coaching clients, who's a lawyer, and he said, you got to make sure they're not convicted of a felony. So I wanted to add that, and I won't make a joke, but there could be a joke there. Policies and procedures. So this is a difficult area, and we thought, oh, this will be easy, but we're working our way through this right now. How should the group documents be retained? Simple questions. Right now, I have them all, but that's not going to work long term. We got to get some way of retaining them, maybe in the cloud, or have other people. We'll figure that out. We need a marketing and PR strategy. We have some ideas, but we're going to ask our marketing people to come up with a strategy going forward, maybe for the next year. We need to create, this is another important piece, create an intake system for clients. So when I spoke to the people out in California, San Francisco, they have a very well established intake system. They get inquiries, and then there's an intake coordinator. We don't have that yet, but we will have to figure out how to do that. And that's probably that's on our agenda coming up. So once the website goes live, we have to know how to handle the intake for clients. And who gets the clients? How are we going to assign clients? What is the priority? Is it geography? Is it specialty? We're going to have to work all that out. Standardized paperwork, contracts, and billing. The collective could have its own paperwork, or we could decide to have each person with their own business have paperwork. Again, we're not sure. Accounting system, tax and legal compliance. These are all things, again, we don't have any of those issues right now, but we may need them going forward. And the possibility of group insurance. We were informed that we might be able to, after we've been around for a little while, get a liability policy for our entire group that would be less expensive than individuals. And then our website launch, that's going to be our next step. So we're hoping to launch, Lauren and I are working on the website now. And again, we have to work out before it goes live, as I just mentioned to you, the intake process. But we are going to be called the Sarasota End-of-Life Doulas.com. That's going to be our website. And we're going to have we're going to put together a very simple website in the beginning. And we're asking people just to do little bios with a picture. We have a picture of our group. It's just going to be very basic landing page, some bios, what services we all offer, contact sheet and a blog. And eventually we'll add events and all of that as well. But start simple. And then this is contact information for me, because if any of you are really interested in setting up a collective, I'd be happy to help coach you, or any of our doulas who have been involved in the steering committee. We have Lauren and Melanie have been involved from the beginning. We could give you some help, because it really sounds like it's a simple thing to do, but it isn't. When I put this together, I thought, oh my God, there's a lot involved in setting up a collective. And, you know, we're only part of the way through. So if we can be of any help to you, you know, please contact me. So now I'll stop sharing and open the floor for questions. Anybody have any questions? Hi, Erin. Erin's from Sarasota also.
So I had a question. We were saying that you went to the, you did an 8-day vigil, and that was with Tidewell. So that was as a volunteer, as a doula volunteer. And so that's because you are getting your experience with them, and sounds like a lot of volunteer work, a lot of.
You know, I haven't gotten too many. I've gotten some inquiries from, you know, in my private business. I haven't done a lot of outreach yet because I'm kind of working with the collective. So I happened to have a lapse where I didn't have a private client, and I thought, oh, I'll do a vigil, and because I like to volunteer my time. And it was going to be I was told by hospice 2-day vigil. They are so wrong. This guy, he lasted 8 days. God bless him. So that's why.
Yeah, it's hard to predict, isn't it?
You never know.
I just want to say that the advice you're giving makes so much sense to so many different organizations that I've belonged to through the years, with the personalities and the financial issues and not everyone pulling their weight. And I really appreciate that you're putting it out there up front so people who get involved know. And that's definitely something I'll take into consideration when we get this started in Broward.
I really appreciate that. And we did discuss during the team building meetings, we did have a little section about conflict resolution, because before we actually went into the collective, we had some conflict. One of the members, somebody who didn't join, created, you know, it created conflict, and we weren't sure how to deal with it. I don't know that we did such a great job. She ended up not joining. And then after that, we decided as a group to talk about it and said, we need to be upfront. If there's a personality issue, please talk to that person individually. If you can't resolve it, then bring it to the group. Everything needs to be out in the open. So important, because we want our clients to be that way. So we need to do it with each other. It's a good point.
When you guys are accepting members, have you guys made contracts for the collective for each member that's there?
It's a wonderful thing. That's a fabulous idea. No, we haven't, and I need to make a note of that. We have not done.
Highly recommend. I know of people who've done things. I mean, I know there are doula situations, and the reason I ask that is because they don't call it a collective, it is a business, but you can't have your own individual business when you are involved in a group business situation. That's just the birth doulas that I know. And in the contracts, So really think about this and how you'd want to do this. There's pros and cons to this, but it's about like not joining other collectives for X amount of time or having NDAs. I highly would suggest NDAs, especially if they're going to bounce from collective to
I
collective.
don't know what that is. Can you say what that is?
Non-disclosure agreements.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just so in case you have a person who's going to kind of bounce around different places and only use it for their own specific needs and not so much the needs of the group or for, you know, the greater community. That's the purpose. It's something to think about and look at. I'm sure there's tons of examples online, but I mean, one of the businesses that I know, they have it set up so it's like if you work with them and you disclose your business with them, then you can't be in another group for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I'm going to look into that. I actually have, I'll get a SCORE mentor who's a lawyer and talk to them about it. Collectives are a little odd. They're a little odd. People don't quite understand them so well.
Yeah.
But I'm going to definitely look into that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, absolutely. I just, my first thought.
Appreciate it. So anybody have any ideas? Lisa, did you hear anything that might help you in putting together a collective or some sort of alliance for your area?
I apologize. I actually had to step away for a couple of minutes in the middle. And so because we're definitely charging for the work that we do. We're doing this as a business. And because of the variety of our backgrounds and disciplines, we're all pretty much on the same page about what we're looking for out of the business and what each of us brings to the party and what each of us is willing to do or not do. And we're giving each other the depth and breadth and the leeway to not be cookie cutter and yet to hold to a standard of what we provide. So at the moment, I don't think we're feeling like we want to be part of a collective because we're still just trying to get our feet under us for what we're doing. And we've hired a company to put our website together. We have, professional headshots are done. We have a person who's going to be handling all our social media. We have we hired an accountant that's handling all of our tax stuff. And so we're not trying to cobble for ourselves pieces of that together just because we don't have the bandwidth nor the desire to do it. So that's kind of where we are. So the collective idea I love, but it feels a little overwhelming to me at the moment.
I get it. We didn't have the budget to do that, or we certainly would have hired. But we also, some of us know how to do some of the work, so we feel like we need to do that too, right? Thank you. Who else said they were looking at the idea of a collective? Anybody else? Shanti, were you thinking about that in Gainesville? Because you have a bunch of doulas up there. No?
No, I mean, I've been so busy working on the Alliance and my own business. And I honestly am not in contact with a lot of doulas that are here. I mean, that's kind of ironic in a way, but William's here in Gainesville and he and I are on the association together, but he's also very busy with his Funeral Directors Association and it's just no. And it's interesting when you talk about how when we're in business for ourselves, we're used to making our own decisions, and I'm working on branching out, but not that far out. I don't know. It's just I applaud you for putting the trust in a group like that and doing it in a business way. It's actually astonishing to me. And it makes me question my own rugged individualism, and so it's a stretch, you know what I mean? And I think it's amazing that you're doing it, because to be in business with a number of people, it's just can be a really bumpy road. And so I'm just really in awe hearing what you had to say. And I love that we recorded this because we can, anyone who's trying to do a collective, we could certainly share it with them.
And I have slides if anybody needs them.
Yeah.
I think, as far as I know, we are the first end-of-life doula collective in the state of Florida.
Yeah, and we are the first statewide organization in the country that I know of. So we have some amazing seeds that we're planting here. This history is being made, and it's quite exciting. It's quite beautiful.
I love that. Yeah. I just think, oh, sorry. Go right ahead, Lisa.
I just have a question, Shanti. So, in terms of the shift for the Alliance to a not-for-profit, so when will you be prepared to share information about how we can join the Alliance and what you're looking for money for that? Because
Yeah.
I know our four would be right on board with supporting that, but we need a number.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, what we've discussed is, well, Shelley, you can correct me. Shelley's on the board as well. Shelley can answer questions about the website and the directory because she's been working on that. We've looked at just $50. That's what Nita does, per person, just 50 for starting out. And that would be for the first year, and it might go up or it might not. I mean, we want numbers, so if a lot give a little, it's better than a few giving a lot, just to encourage people to join. So that's what we're looking at right now is $50 for the year.
and so
And it
just
would
to
have
put it out,
Mhm.
just to put it out there, Shanti. So in the process, and just for your thinking, and Shelley as well. So it as you're doing this, and because you want numbers, perhaps give an opportunity for scholarships, so that for persons who are in a position to pay more, that
Mhm.
for persons who are not in a position to pay but really want to participate, to be
Mhm.
able to do anonymous scholarship opportunities if people need that sort of help, so that we can to help to support you and to build the energy behind it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds smart. And sometimes sliding scale is a good way to go too. But I think in something like this, sliding scale might be a little too confusing. But in my own business, when I do scholarships or donate my services, I ask people to donate to someone in the community their time. They don't have to give me their time, but to do something for someone and kind of let us know who that is and just get a certain number of hours of community service as a trade, because it benefits us to help others, and it just generates that energy of generosity and activity and connections, and so it's kind of a win-win situation. This website and this directory has been a long, slow process for us at the Florida level, and we've had a turnover of our board members and different things and going on, and so we do have 3 new people now, which are Christine and Shelley and Megan, and that's very exciting because there's new energy coming in and coming up, and it's just really a good time for us. In the beginning, we were meeting every other week. I mean, twice a month, every other week. And then we went to once a month, and I mean, I kind of prefer more often because you get things rolling, but I have more time. So, I'm able, and some were just feeling the pinch of time. But when you go just once a month, it just definitely slows down the process. So, but we also welcome, energy and input from anyone who wants to give us their ideas, because we send out these emails and we love to get them back too, so we know who's around. But thank you for that, Lisa. Shelley, do you want to share anything?
About the membership stuff or something else? Can't hear you. Hold on. Say it again. You're muted.
Oh yeah, right. Yes.
Membership stuff? Okay. So we have plans for the membership things. One of them is that, we want to keep it simple right now. For the $50 membership, you do have a spot in the directory for the year. But we would like to be able to have it too, where you can still access information and meetings and things in the past. That's something that we're going to be another perk to doing memberships. And then we would like to, in the future, have tiered memberships that we're going to be figuring out as well for whoever wants to support FEOLDA at that time. I do love the idea of the scholarship stuff too. Thank you. That gave me a lot of different ideas that now I can share with other people in meetings and stuff as I think about it. So that was great. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
And yeah, and then another membership category would be the affiliate associated businesses. That anything around end of life, or it could be elder law attorneys, it could be funeral homes. We haven't really we haven't hammered out all the details on it, but to be welcoming other businesses to be available and be found on our site. So
yeah. Well,
I have kind of a non sequitur question, but since I have you all here, I'm just curious. For those of you who do strictly end of life doula work, are you able to kind of quantify roughly the time frame in which you take on your clients? Like I mean, are you getting them a year before they die, 3 weeks before they die? Are you able to say an average?
I can. I'm getting them very close to dying. Now, I want to qualify. Once in a while, I'll get a private client who wants advanced care directive work, like coaching about, like, one of them has a great fear of death. She's not dying immediately, but she wants help on doing her advanced directive. That's rare. The clients I get through hospice are mostly pretty quick at the end, not early on, because many of them don't go to hospice early on. So I would love to get them as soon as they're diagnosed. It hasn't really happened yet, for me personally.
yeah, I'd piggyback and say it's right when, like, a week or something like that before a person goes, or like a couple days. Very, very quick.
Which is really interesting because, if the premise and the heart of wanting to do the work is to provide teaching to help people to prepare, it doesn't really give you the runway to do that, does it?
Part of our work will be education. We're going to be out there talking to people, doing advanced care directives, and then always explaining what an end-of-life doula does and when is the best time to hire. We have a brochure that says, when is the best time to hire a doula? And it says right there.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's education more than anything else right now.
Truly. Yeah. Thank you.
$6:30.
yeah, yeah, I think that's great. Are there any other last questions or comments? I'm just so moved by this. I think this is going to be tremendously important for people to view, and just so glad we did this at this time. Our recorded meetings are part of our perks for our website, and encouragement for people to come and join and have access to our educational stuff. It's our currency, I guess you could say. So people say, oh, can I just see the recording? And I'm like, well, we're kind of holding those close to home, and we will make them available to members. But if there's someone particularly who needs to see it, outside of that box, that's fine. We appreciate it. And of course, Sally, I'll get a copy too as soon as it's ready. Yeah. So Shelley, you want to close us out?
Yeah, I want to thank you all for being available and for listening. And I'm happy to help anybody, any areas. Many of us in the doula group will be happy to advise others because we're all in this together. We're just a little ahead. That's all. We're feeling our way. So thanks for this opportunity.